It's day 433. It's also July 12th, 2020, and we are in Elk Springs, Colorado. You ever wake up in the morning and ask yourself, what am I doing? And more importantly, why? Yeah, me too. Hi, my name's Craig, and this is my story. A story about life. Life out there. For visuals while listening, search Life Out There on your favorite social media platform or use the links in the podcast description. That quick overnight stay in Elk Springs for some shut-eye? Well, that turned into a couple of days. Fascinating little place. At least to me. These sort of places always get me. Places that have come and gone in just a matter of a few years. Just a drop in an ocean of time. And we've been through places like this all across the country. From Union, Oregon to Shores, Nevada. And then all those old mining towns across the Arizona, Nevada, and California deserts. And here, a search on the internet finds very little about this spot halfway between Dinosaur and Craig, Colorado. This place looked a little unique in that it seemed that its heyday could have been as recent as the 60s, maybe even 70s. But then one day, something happened. The two motels shuttered. Folks left their homes. Empty to rot away in the high desert of Colorado. But for where? Were they up the road just 20 miles in Maybell? Not likely. Just 70 or so folks call Maybell home. So did they keep going? Another 30 miles and join the 9,000 or so in Craig? Or had they left the western slope altogether? So many questions. Always. But there's never anyone to ask. The place just seemed to stretch out alongside Highway 40. Mostly just driveways off the highway. Very few still in use. The occasional road here and there off into those hills. To a ranch, maybe? Does anyone still live there? Looks like a few, but short of knocking on some doors, I'll probably never know. I did read of the 30,000-acre privately owned ranch named the Elk Springs Ranch. The property is part of the state's Ranching for Wildlife program, which provides Colorado residents a unique opportunity to hunt on the private ranch land, normally closed to the public. Participating ranches provide public hunting recreation access to their land free of charge for those who draw licenses. I wondered which of these dirt roads would take us there. We'd hang out here for a couple of days. Rest area's nothing much to look at, but our quiet corner under those shade trees meant Dougie and I could take lots of long walks. Watching 3 or 4 cars speed by each hour, somebody in a hurry to get somewhere. But wherever that is, certainly wasn't Elk Springs. And snapping photos during our long walks, those decrepit, half-rotted away RVs long since abandoned in the parking lot of a motel. And that parking lot? Now more weeds and sagebrush than asphalt, abandoned even longer ago. And each time I look at that circa 1970 RV, I imagine the person that spent hard-earned money on it, used it, who knows how much, but certainly not intending it to end up here, in a junk heap, on that day they forked over $1,000 for their dream. A life on wheels, or even just a weekend getaway from time to time. Up there in those amazing mountains, within the Dinosaur National Monument, a paradise in their own backyard. They absolutely had big plans, big dreams. But here it is. How many of those dreams were fulfilled before their hard-earned cash had been deposited in this parking lot? In front of that motel that was very likely another person's dream. They spent their hard-earned cash, their sweat, their time, on a business, a life of their own. And how many passers-by had they played host to before deciding one day that their dream had died as well, and all their hard work would become a graveyard for not only their dreams, but the dreams of others. And now, what we see is simply a place to dump garbage. And the world whizzes by those long-dead dreams, one car at a time, 80 miles an hour on the road of life. There's still life somewhere out there, on either end of that road. And again, why no life here? The faded for sale sign in front of one of those dead dreams, it shifts subtly in the draft of each passing car. No one sees it. I wonder how long ago the person that dug that hole and planted that sign gave up waiting for the phone to ring. Should have called and asked, I guess. Like I said, internet tells me little. Can't even tell me how many folks still live here. Certainly isn't many. The ones that do, they'll make that 30-mile drive back into Dinosaur for their mail. There's no mail delivery out here. For groceries, another 40 miles into Vernal. Or maybe in the opposite direction, do their shopping in Craig, Colorado. 9,000 folks call that place home. And I have to be curious, right? When a town that bears my name shows up in the windshield or on a map. This entire region, including Craig, was home to the Ute and the Shoshone people until Europeans began showing up in the late 19th century. The town would be founded in 1889 by a couple of real estate developers. They recognized the potential there, at the confluence of the Yampa and Bear Rivers. The Bear River would later be named Fortification Creek, and the town would begin life as home to Himley's ferry crossing service and the Peck's store, a one-room trading post. But those two developers saw more. So they went out in search of financial backers, and they found them. One in particular, Reverend William Bayard Craig. A prominent minister in Denver would also see the town's potential and would become a major investor in the town, lending his name to it upon founding. And for over 80 years, the town would prosper, ranching, all sorts of farming, and the railway would arrive shortly after the turn of the century, helping to connect the area to the rest of the world. Or this part of it anyways. But then, the 1970s and 80s happened, with the construction of the largest power generation plant in Colorado, and several coal mines opening in the area. The Craig Generating Station would hold the title of largest power plant in the state until 2004, when the Comanche Generating Station was established in Pueblo. But today, the Craig plant still holds a second top slot and remains the backbone of Craig's economy. And my guess? These two motels we're looking at, along with a few other dreams, might have been born right about that time, here in Elk Springs. And seeing the name Craig reminded me how I had searched the internet. How many towns are there in the U.S. with my name, Craig? And learning that there are 14 of them. Virginia, Pennsylvania, Oklahoma, Ohio, Nebraska, Montana, Missouri, Mississippi, Kansas, Iowa, Indiana, Colorado, California, and Alaska. We knew about the one in Montana. That's sort of where we're headed next, actually. Got some family history to dig up there. Figured I may as well check out the rest of them at some point. So now, 1 down, 13 to go. And what about those 75 folks up the road in Maybell? Another 130-year-old ranching community here on the western slope. But seems Maybell made it. Still alive and well. That tiny little community, all these years later. Seemingly avoiding the same fate as Elk Springs. just 20 miles away. And Maybelle also has a spot in the record books of Colorado. Coldest temperature on record in the state. February 1st, 1985, when the Maybelle Post Office recorded 61 degrees below zero. Holy cows. And as usual, I can't seem to spend time digging around the internet without coming across some random piece of information. Here, it was the nightly news when I learned that deer and elk can be pretty dangerous.
That wolf is howling in my ear. It is time for Wild Wednesday. That's what that sound means. And we are joined with Joey Livingston with Colorado Parks and Wildlife. Joey, always a pleasure. Thanks for being here this morning with us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
All right, Joey, starting with a very serious topic. So in the past week, there have been 2 incidents, kids under the age of 10, attacked by an elk in the Estes Park area. When it comes down to it, what do our viewers at home have to know, whether they're up in the Estes Park area or enjoying the outdoors in general?
Yeah, so animals like elk, deer, and moose, they get very defensive of their young, and it's that time of year. They've got their young, they've got their calves, they've got their fawns, so they can be extra defensive, extra aggressive, and so this time of year you need to be very careful around those animals. We did have 2 attacks on some young kids, so very important to make sure that you educate your children to make sure that they're wary of wildlife, make sure that they know if they see an animal that they should run away from it, don't approach it. That didn't happen in these cases, but that's still always important to make sure that they're aware of that. For parents, if you are outdoors with your kids, make sure you're keeping them close, keep an eye on the area. Like I said, especially this time of year is when those the female deer, elk, and moose are extra aggressive. Estes Park.
Always reminders out there, I suppose, that if we're choosing to spend our time out here in the boonies, most every type of wildlife can get in a mood and ruin your day. We'll probably hit Craig for some supplies when we head out. And Maybelle. Gotta give that a look, just for fun. Map says we'll head north just past Maybelle. And I wonder what we'll learn there. Turns out, this thing called life comes with a lot of rules. Maybe it's time to break a few. Because you can. No, seriously. You can.